So that was something. So I just got finished watching Max Holloway put on an absolute clinic against Kalvin at UFC Fight Island 7, and I had some thoughts. Now, I don't want to make a thing of this. I don't want to make this a regular feature on the channel, this reacting to fight night events, because God knows the UFC have too many. I'm going to do pay-per-views though, so I'll come back for Conor versus Poirier. But I do have a lot of thoughts on this because, as I said, Max Holloway put on an absolute masterclass, and I think there's a lot to be said about Max's performance, but also Kattar's performance, and also the performance of the referee and potentially Kattar's corner. So starting with Max Holloway, I think we saw a few different things from Max. Mainly the same, because Max has always fought like that high volume, go to the body, go to the head, throwing combination. But what I think we saw different from Max was that he made the rounds count. And what I mean by that is if you go back and look at Max against Volkanovski, which is the big one, both fights, but especially the second one, Max, in my opinion, won the fight, but it was close. And not only that, the rounds were close. So you could argue that Volkanovski might have taken some of the rounds that maybe other people will be convinced that Max Holloway took. But the difference here was that Max made sure that when he won a round, he won the round big. He was going for the finish like he always does, but he's not the biggest one-punch power puncher, and if a guy is tough like Kattar was today, it's hard to put him out. But he landed so much volume that even the worst judges couldn't get it wrong, and the scorecards were hugely lopsided. He landed 445 significant strikes, and yes, that's a UFC record. It doesn't even sound like it's real. It's crazy. Another thing that Max done very well was he went to the body in combination with the head, and that was one thing that we picked out in our preview show, because if you watch past Kalvin Kattar fights, he does similar things to what Dustin Poirier does, in that he shells up quite high, leaving the body open. I don't think he does as good of a job as Poirier defending the body once somebody goes there, so I thought that would have been open for Max, which it was. But to be honest, it was one of the craziest fights that we've seen, just because it was so one-sided. I mean, Kattar did have his moments, he landed some shots, but those moments were few and far between. And to be honest, there was never really a time where I thought that Kattar was doing something that significant that I thought he was really getting back into the fight. There was one moment where he landed a good shot that backed Max Holloway up, but it was just back to one-way traffic soon after. So yeah, let's talk about the referee. So I don't really want to jump on Herb Dean, because referees have an extremely tough job. In most situations, I like when they give guys who are clearly tough and who are clearly fighting back a chance to pull themselves back into the fight. There was a point getting into round 4 where I felt like Kattar was so far behind that he'd need a miracle to get back into it. He was taking a lot of shots, as we saw from the stats, and I just thought that the referee probably could have stopped it on the feet. I mean, a puncher always has a chance, right? But at some point we have to save them from themselves. There's also something to be said about the corner. Maybe they could have stopped it, but I mean, Kattar's so tough. We've seen him in there before, take a lot of shots and come back. But I don't think it was ever to the level of what Max Holloway done to him today. But still, incredible performance by Max Holloway. Next level toughness from Kalvin Kattar. And he had his moments at times, but Max was too much. Probably the best performance of his career. I think it goes without saying that Max should be next for that title. He did say he would step in to fight McGregor or Poirier if one of them fell out next weekend. I hope that doesn't happen, but Max is crazy. Well done. In the co-main event, we had Carlos Condit defeat Matt Brown in a really fun fight, a really fun old guy fight. Like, I love old guy fights, and by old guy fights I mean when old guys fight old guys. Good old guys fight old guys who still have their faculties. I'm not really for the usual fare of throwing these old guys to the wolves, throwing them to the young lions who just eat them up and become not even stars, because sometimes it doesn't even work. But I know it's a rite of passage almost in MMA to get to the end of your career and, you know, give the rub. That sounds weird, but you know what I mean. Pass the torch, so to speak. But I like these kind of ones. I like when they match up guys like Matt Brown against guys like Carlos Condit, who are later in their careers, but they have experience and still have their faculties, and they still have a little bit to show. And I think with Carlos Condit, I didn't have any concerns about his durability, really. I had some concerns about Matt Brown's durability, his cardio, which kind of played into this. But the craziest thing for me in this one was, who would have thought that Carlos Condit's offensive wrestling would have been the difference? And that's kind of what it was. He had that beautiful sweep takedown. It was almost like a Muay Thai leg sweep, but not really. It was also kind of like a leg scissor takedown, but not really. It was just very nice. I loved it. In the fight before that, we had Santiago Ponzinibio return to fight Li Jingliang, and As usual with the UFC, we get proof that they aren't in the Disney business, the fairy tale business. And Santiago Ponzinibio, after being out for so long with such a bad illness, he had a infection in his blood, then an infection in his bone, returns. And I think a lot of people would have liked to see him get a victory here, but he got knocked out pretty horrifically. And as Luke Thomas pointed out on Twitter, it was kind of reminiscent of Michael Bisping's knockout of Luke Rockhold when he won the title. But yeah, not a happy ending, or not a happy return for Santiago Ponzinibbio. Before that, Alessio Di Chirico defeated Joaquin Buckley in a surprising upset, and one that kind of proves that MMA, again, isn't in the fairy tale business. It also still is very unpredictable. I mean, Joaquin Buckley isn't like this crazy undefeated phenom, but looking at the matchmaking coming into this one, the fact that they avoid giving him James Krause and give him a guy in Di Chirico who was on a 3-fight losing streak kind of told me that they really wanted to slow roll him up the rankings and maybe let him get some more highlight reel finishes, but the opposite is what happened, and Di Chirico got a beautiful knockout. And yeah, his post-fight interview was kind of weird though, and then his post-fight scrum or press conference, whatever you want to call it, was a bit strange. He said that he wanted the fighters who got knocked out and lost to get interviewed, but we have plenty of experience that shouldn't happen. He didn't tap, Alistair. He didn't tap. Oh, and on a side note, I think that was when Dan Hardy said that he looked like he stared in the eyes of Medusa, which was just an unbelievable call. And Dan Hardy, you are an excellent commentator. And just that 3-man boot, I really liked it. I think I might have said on the preview show, I love Dan Hardy, Daniel Cormier and John Anik together. I mean, John Anik is just a class act. John Anik is phenomenal. So he works with everybody. But I think sometimes when Rogan and DC are together, it can be a little bit unbalanced or something. But with Dan Hardy, DC, I think it's very good. And in the opener of the main card, we had Puna Soriano defeating Dusko Todorovich. The fight was a big clash of styles, as we expected. Soriano is the type of guy who blitzes forward, lands his shots, doesn't really try to set them up. He just tries to Vanderlei Silva-like in a way. He just tries to blitz forward and then land his big hooks. Whereas Todorovich is a little bit slicker, which is kind of what we saw earlier. He had his hands down, he was evading strikes very well actually. And to be honest, I thought it was trending towards Soriano eventually slowing down and Todorovich then getting him out of there. But yeah, Soriano proved that he can land that shot again, and it was a beautiful finish. But again, another tough guy in Todorovich. He was really tough to get out of there. Great win though. Great win. The prelims were also not bad, apart from that one fight where they didn't really throw a whole lot. What was it again? I almost forgot. Who was that? Oh yeah, Sarah Moras and Vanessa Mello. I almost fell asleep again, just trying to look it up. It wasn't very good. There was a lot of high-as, not a lot of punches. Well, a lot of punches attempted, not very much landed. Moving on. The other one that really stood out to me on that card was the opener, Austin Lingo defeating Jacob Kilburn. I had a bet on Austin Lingo to win and to finish, and he probably should have finished early. That sounds weird. He probably should have finished the other guy. Still sounds weird. He probably should have stopped the fight early, but he didn't. But it was a great performance by him. Anyways, that's it for the card. Oh, one more thing. The Khabib announcement. So the UFC essentially, they announced that they would make an announcement for Dana White to announce that Khabib might make an announcement about him returning if somebody makes a statement, essentially. So Khabib might be back, but he's going to wait. He's going to wait till the event next weekend, UFC 257, of course, McGregor, Poirier, Chandler, Hooker. But yeah, that's it. I'm finishing it there. Join us for a preview show. Sean Taylor will be back. We'll be talking about that card sometime next week. But yeah, like this video, subscribe, and I'll be doing more of these for the pay-per-views, not the fight nights. Cheers.